안녕하십니까. 글로벌 모니터 안근모입니다. 미국 연방공개시장위원회 FOMC가 올해 말 점도표 금리를 동결했습니다. 올 연말 근원 인플레이션 전망을 높여 잡으면서도 올해 금리를 3차례 총 75bp 인하하겠다는 구상을 그대로 고수했습니다. 금리 인하가 2차례로 줄어들지 모른다고 봤던 금융시장의 걱정은 기우로 끝났습니다. 제롬 파월 연준 의장은 지난 1월 인플레이션이 상당히 높게 나왔지만은 계절적 영향을 받은 것 같다고 깎아내렸습니다. 2월 인플레이션도 예상보다 높았지만 끔찍한 정도는 아니라고 밝혔습니다. 인플레이션 목표 달성 전망을 바꿀 만한 게 아니었다고 파월 의장은 설명했습니다. 다만 올해 3차례 금리 인하 구상은 아주 박빙의 차이로 가까스로 유지됐습니다. 19명의 FOMC 위원 중에서 절반을 겨우 넘는 10명이 올해 서너 차례 금리 인하를 제시했습니다. 올해 금리를 한두 차례만 내리거나 아예 동결하자는 위원 수도 9명으로 많았습니다. 내년 금리 인하는 4차례에서 3차례로 25bp 줄였습니다. FOMC 위원들의 중립금리 추정치 역시 이번에 소폭 높여졌습니다. 지난 2018년 9월 이후로 처음 있는 일이었습니다. 다만 파월 의장은 아주 미미한 변화일 뿐이라면서 의미를 부여하지 않으려고 애썼습니다. 파월 의장은 양적 긴축 속도를 낮추는 이른바 QE 테이퍼링을 아주 조기에 시행하겠다고 밝혔습니다. 그렇다고 해서 QT를 일찍 끝내려는 것은 아니라고 파월 의장은 강조했습니다. 양적 긴축의 감속은 확정된 것이고 QT가 길어질지 여부는 두고 볼 일이죠. 파월 의장은 인플레이션이 지속 가능하게 목표를 향해 내려간다는 확신이 더 강해지면 금리를 내리기 시작할 거라고 기존 입장을 재확인했습니다. 또한 경제지표가 특히 노동시장이 예상과 달리 약해지는 경우에도 금리 인하로 대응하겠다고 미리 언지를 해두었습니다. 파월 의장의 기자회견 주요 내용을 함께 보시겠습니다.
We're committed to both sides of our dual mandate, and an unexpected weakening in the labor market could also warrant a policy response. Turning to our balance sheet. At this meeting, we discussed issues related to slowing the pace of decline in our securities holdings. While we did not make any decisions today on this, the general sense of the committee is that it will be appropriate to slow the pace of runoff fairly soon, consistent with the plans we previously issued. The decision to slow the pace of runoff does not mean that our balance sheet will ultimately shrink by less than it would otherwise, but rather allows us to approach that ultimate level more gradually. In particular, slowing the pace of runoff will help ensure a smooth transition, reducing the possibility that money markets experience stress and thereby facilitating the ongoing decline in our securities holdings, consistent with reaching the appropriate level of ample reserves.
Rates were kept the same this year, but inflation is higher and growth is higher. Does it mean more tolerance for higher inflation and less of a willingness to slow the economy to achieve that target?
No, it doesn't mean that. What it means is that, the economy is performing well. And the inflation data came in a little bit higher as a separate matter, and I think that caused people to write up their inflation. But nonetheless, we continue to make good progress on bringing inflation down.
When you say that you're willing to either maintain the rate for longer, what is the tolerance of the Federal Reserve for inflation coming in above its 2% target?
We're strongly committed to bringing inflation down to 2% over time, and we will achieve that goal. Markets believe we will achieve that goal, and they should believe that, because that's what will happen over time. But we stress over time.
During your congressional testimony this month, you said that your test for making the first change to interest rates does not require you to be terribly comfortable that inflation is at 2% because interest rates are well above neutral. At the same time, you said here after the last meeting that the first cut is highly consequential. Can you reconcile these views for me? If rates are well above neutral, why would the first cut be highly consequential? Is that because you anticipate one cut would be followed by one or two more?
That the risks are really two-sided here. We do see the risks as two-sided, so it is consequential. We want to be careful.
How much of that inflation that we've seen so far this year do you chalk up to one-off calendar adjustment effects?
I want to start by saying I always try to be careful about dismissing data that we don't like. But I would say the January number, which was very high, the January CPI and PCE numbers were quite high. There's reason to think that there could be seasonal effects there. But nonetheless, we don't want to be completely dismissive of it. The February number was higher than expectations, but we have it at currently well below 30 basis points core PCE, which is not terribly high. But I take the two of them together, And I think they haven't really changed the overall story, which is that of inflation moving down gradually on a sometimes bumpy road toward 2%. I don't think that story has changed. I also don't think that those readings added to anyone's confidence that we're moving closer to that point. But we didn't excessively celebrate the good inflation readings we got in the last 7 months of last year. We didn't take too much signal out of that. What you heard us saying was that we needed to see more. We wanted to be careful about that decision. And we're not going to overreact as well to these 2 months of data, nor are we going to ignore them.